Opposition to this bill has united liberals and conservatives. I watched a little of the Senate debate, and we had our friend Shirley Turner, Senator Turner from the 15th District, no conservative she, railing against the bill because it raises taxes too much, and I couldn't agree with her more. People do want compromise, but they want good compromises, not bad ones. And, Mr. Speaker, this entire package is a bad compromise. It's a bad compromise because it spends too much and it doesn't put enough controls on spending. It increases our debt and raises taxes way too much. On the spending side, a 25% increase in transportation spending year over year, just the $1.6 billion to $2 billion. No one can understand in my district what governments have so much money that they can increase spending on any line item by 25%, but yet here we propose a 25% increase year over year. It's too much. Assemblyman Wisniewski hit it on the head. It's not enough that this $2 billion, which is a 25% increase, $700 million in a slush fund every year with virtually no controls. And forgive the taxpayers in New Jersey if they're a little cynical by what they've seen come out of Trenton lately, but they have the feeling that it might not be well spent, or, might I suggest, even be spread around for political purposes. We shouldn't be creating slush funds that politicians can then raid and spread around at their convenience. And of course, drivers in this state know, they know it intuitively, and they know it because studies have told them we have the most expensive building and maintenance costs in the nation, and there's not one thing that this bill does to control costs or make the construction or maintenance of our roads more efficient. It increases our debt, and as Assemblyman Wisniewski said, there's no limit on what we can borrow in 1 year. Who knows how much a future governor, a future legislature will decide to borrow in 1 year to build roads. Mr. Speaker, you're of the opinion that this will be an economic stimulus. Well, if 1.2 or $1.7 billion is good for the economy in 1 year, why not $3 billion in 1 year? Why not $5 billion in 1 year? Why not we borrow the whole thing in 1 year? Then our economy will really be humming. Of course, our taxpayers and our children and our grandchildren will be buried in red ink, and that's not what the taxpayers of the state want us to do. Particular concern for me on the debt issue is that we're not submitting it to voter approval. For debt, that is a bedrock commitment that I and many of my colleagues have made. It is not constitutionally and technically required, but I didn't make a promise to my constituents with a footnote or a proviso that as long as it's constitutionally permissible, I'll vote to incur you and your children with debt without giving it to you for your approval. We should not burden taxpayers with debt without submitting it to them for approval. That's what this package does. But then we get to the tax increases, Mr. Speaker, and here's where Mr. Wisniewski and I disagree just a little bit. This is, over the life of this plan, the 8 years for this plan, it's a net tax increase, $500 million. But that's if you assume that all the tax cuts, the tax reductions that are promised will actually be phased in. Now, we're on the eve of a gubernatorial election, and we've heard some candidates tell us what they think of this. We actually could have just heard from one of the candidates, Assemblyman Wisniewski. He doesn't support the phase-out of the estate tax, and I suspect that Governor Wisniewski would repeal that phase-in quite quickly. We know that Mr. Murphy doesn't support it either, and I think I see future Governor Lesniak on the floor as well. Senator Lesniak voted against this bill because he doesn't support the phase-out of the estate tax and the other tax reductions. And candidly, Mr. Speaker, you've suggested that if we can't afford it, then we'll just roll it back. When I was a kid on Saturday mornings, we used to watch Popeye cartoons, and we had our favorite character, Wimpy, who would gladly pay you Tuesday for a hamburger today. This is a wimpy kind of tax cut, where we're going to raise your taxes today and promise you some tax relief tomorrow. Trust us, we're from Trenton. What could go wrong? Where have we heard this before? Taxpayers are contacting me saying, I don't trust you. Don't raise my taxes anymore. One of the great things about being an elected official, and Mr. Speaker, you can appreciate this, and my colleagues can as well, we hear directly from our constituents all the time about any number of issues. But on this issue, my email's really been lighting up. and I'm obliged to share some of my constituents' concerns with the body. I got an email Wednesday from a woman in Lincoln Park who said, "Please vote no on the gas tax. My Social Security check will have a hard time covering the additional expense. Find another way to fix the roads." This from a couple in Rockaway Township. "I'm contacting you regarding the upcoming vote on increasing the gas tax. I implore you to vote no. Like many families, my husband and I watch every penny. I have not received a salary increase in several years. We do not live an extravagant lifestyle. The proposed increase would make a tight budget even tighter. We all need to stick to a budget in our families. The state should have to do the same. We live in a state that is taxed at an incredibly high rate. It is harder and harder to justify staying here. I love my state. I just want it to be affordable for me to continue to live here. I hope you will vote no on the gas tax." Here's one from West Caldwell, Mr. Speaker. "This huge increase will cause my family to cut back on food to pay this increase. My wife and I are just coming off unemployment to lower paying jobs. Everything else is going to go up because of the delivery cost. We don't trust government with our money anymore." Another one from Rockaway, Mr. Speaker. "This proposed gas tax is insane. The offsets will never make up for this tax. Transportation costs will rise, and in turn these costs will be passed on to the consumer. I urge you to vote no on this bill." Mr. Speaker, we've talked about solutions and finding solutions, not just complaining about what's in this bill. There are solutions to the Transportation Trust Fund problem that would not entail raising the tax on gas. The MVC alone throws off at least $600 million each year in excess fees. What is that going to if not to fix our roads or take care of our transportation infrastructure? I know that we've had bipartisan agreement now on eliminating corporate welfare. We throw billions of dollars around to Fortune 500 companies. If we stop doing that, maybe we could fund our roads without taxing our overtaxed taxpayers even more. Mr. Speaker, I am all for compromise, and I invited compromise on this issue at least 2 years ago, suggesting that I could negotiate with people to find a reasonable compromise, a reasonable solution to a problem that's very important to the people of the state. But you know what the number one big problem is? The biggest problem in the state is the overtaxation that our citizens suffer. And it makes no sense to try to solve one problem by making our biggest problem even bigger. So on behalf of taxpayers, and frankly on behalf of sanity, Mr. Speaker, vote no today on this bill. Thank you.